Now that it seems almost everyone has been able to make their way over to the fade table, we're going to go ahead and get started this morning. Is this working, or should I just use my natural projection? Good? Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the second annual State of the College Address here at the New York Yacht Club. My name is Tim Deneen. I am a graduate of the college in 2008. I also work in Fordham's Office of Alumni Relations, and there I manage our Young Alumni Student programs. Before we move into this morning's program, I wanted to speak very briefly about something that has kind of been consuming a bit of my time lately that my colleague Kim Morgan was nice enough to give me the opportunity to share with you. I really want to start with, I guess, highlighting three things that are happening right now that I think speak to the character of Fordham College and also the university, all with a common theme. The first is, I think, this very breakfast, where alumni have chosen to come back and check in with Fordham College at Rose Hill, hear updates, and hear the impressive accomplishments of Fordham College Roseville students. Also, a few days ago, the Fordham men's basketball team led a free clinic for PS 71, which is a middle school in the Bronx, a free basketball clinic. They came for 2 hours and signed basketballs, gave lessons. It's a really neat exercise. You're wondering how I'm linking this together, I'm sure. And then the third is this evening, I'm happy to report, is the kickoff of this year's Fordham Mentoring Program, which hosts about 300 individuals, 150 matched pairs of students and alumni. We'll be getting a year-long, one-on-one mentoring relationship this evening. The reason I bring these three pieces up is I think that they are all related under this common theme of mentoring. Mentoring, of course, is very significant to Fordham and lies at the heart of Fordham's approach to all it does. It lies at the heart of the individual-centered approach to education. That's why I'm happy to kind of unveil a new and improved mentoring program, which works a little bit something like this. Alumni, many of whom are in this room and who I'll see later this evening actually at the event, sign up, are paired with one of the undergraduate students, and over the course of the year, progress in a relationship with the student and partner with the university in forming this individual personally, professionally, academically, socially, over the span of the year, punctuated by these 4 Fordham-hosted events. It really is a great program, and if anyone is interested in hearing more about it, in signing up, it would be my absolute pleasure to share more information with you. But I am happy to report, as I said, that this year we were overwhelmed with interest from alumni such as yourself. So thank you for attending this morning. Thank you for checking in to events and programs like the mentoring program. It really speaks to the culture of Fordham and of Fordham's education. At this point, I would like to introduce Tom Harrington, who is a graduate of Fordham College at Rose Hill, class of 61. He is also Commodore of the New York Yacht Club. And Tom is going to be nice enough to share with us some of the 2 history lessons, a personal history lesson on his time at Fordham College at Rose Hill, and also a little bit more about the building that we are in this morning. So Tom.
Probably the most important part of my Fordham experience, and I'm sure yours, happened without me even realizing it. It was being immersed in the Jesuit culture and traditions. It was being exposed to 2 of the basic principles embedded in the Jesuit educational philosophy: cura personalis, care of the entire person, development of that person intellectually, physically, and spiritually, and magis, Latin for the more. The more, the greater service to others. I am the living proof of experiencing them both. It was the late spring of my junior year, and I was scheduled to head that upcoming summer for the Marine Corps Platoon Leaders class at Quantico, Virginia. I was a 2-sport varsity athlete, swimming in the winter and playing baseball in the spring and fall. Looking at the class schedule for my senior year, I noticed logic, a course required for graduation, as you all know. But it was only given in the afternoon during the spring semester, baseball season. The irony is that the course teaches you how to apply logic when faced with a dilemma. Well, I had a dilemma. There I was. If I fulfilled my Marine commitment, I could not go to summer school. If I did not go to summer school, I could not play baseball. If I did not go to Quantico this summer upon graduation, I'd be a private on my way to Paris Island instead of an officer. So, I went to the philosophy department of this wonderful Jesuit institution to discuss my predicament. In the true Jesuit tradition of Magis, Father Charles Matthew, otherwise known as Charlie, a member of the faculty, teaching logic, called me over one day on the campus and asked, how many days from term end until you are scheduled to go to Quantico? I told him about 3 weeks. He replied, be here the day after term ends and every day thereafter until you can pass the tutorial in logic that I am going to give you. Every morning, including Saturday, until he felt I was ready. Then he gave me the final exam, which I passed with a B+. My only B+, not joking. The rest is history. I went to Quantico, Virginia for my summer. I swam for the Rams in the winter term. I was MVP and first team all-conference on the baseball team. I graduated on time, received a commission as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, completed my active duty service, graduated from Columbia University Business School with an MBA, and stayed friends with Father Mathis until he passed away. In 1996, my wife and I endowed a scholarship in his name, and the 4th and 5th beneficiaries will be graduating in 2013 and 2014, respectively. Cura Personalis and Magis. I'm the beneficiary of the true Fordham experience, even at times by osmosis. Anyway, I thank you for your comment.
Thank you very much, Tom. I would now like to invite us to speak the Dean of Fordham College at Rose Hill, Dr. Mike Latham.
Thanks very much, Tom. It's really exciting to be in this room. As the son and the grandson of U.S. Navy officers, and a kid who grew up in Pearl Harbor, and an American historian, I feel like this is kind of where I belong. My father, I think, always hoped that in some capacity my career would involve the ocean and would have me at sea. Didn't quite work out that way, but if he could see me in this room, I think he would think that I probably finally arrived, that I finally was doing what I really should do. It is a terrific space, and certainly we're very grateful to Tom and to the New York Yacht Club for hosting us here. And I'm grateful to all of you for coming. This is really an exciting time for Fordham College at Rose Hill. We've had a really number of exciting things and initiatives go forward in the past few years, and I'm glad to have the chance to talk to you about them today. I'd like to begin by talking about some of the recent successes that we've seen at the college in a number of different areas. And I'll do this by talking about a few different aspects. First, we can look at what happens with admissions. And I'm very proud to say that we have continued to attract truly outstanding classes into the college. The group of students who entered this year, the group of freshmen who entered this year, are among the strongest in the history of the school. Fully 40% of them come from the top 10% of their high school graduating class. 80% of them come from the top quarter. Their average high school grade point average is above 3.5. Their average combined SAT, math, and verbal together is about 1250. 20% of them come from underrepresented minority groups in higher education. And that's something we're very proud of. What this tells us is that as Fordham continues, and as the college continues to raise its academic profile, as we continue to improve our standing nationally, we are also continuing to remain faithful to the mission of the institution. We remain a college in which we have a significant number of students who are first-generation college students, the first of their families to come to college. And we remain a place that has a significant number of students coming from working-class families. For a Jesuit institution, this is really quite important. This allows us to continue to be rooted in our community and to bring students into the college to pursue experiences in ways that enriches the society in which we're a part of. We can also measure success by looking at what our graduates wind up doing. In the past year, about 31, in fact exactly 31 of our students won prestigious fellowships and scholarships. These are nationally competitive awards, and they're awards which really are attained by students of real academic and personal character, academic distinction. Among these awards were 4 students who won German Science Foundation Awards, which sent them to study in Germany. 4 of these students won Oren scholarships from the National Security Education Program, which sent them off to study languages and work in areas that Americans have less experience with. 2 of them won Fulbright Awards, which are really among the most important and prestigious awards given to students to go to study abroad. And one of our students, a young man named Abraham Mercado, won a Truman Scholarship. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, the Truman Scholarship is the highest, most prestigious award that can be given to an American university junior. Abraham is a brilliant young man who came to Fordham from Puerto Rico by way of New Jersey. He's a major in international political economy, and he's going off to do some really exciting things for sure. Another thing we could look at is what our students do when they go on to graduate. And here we can look at, for example, our rates of admission to professional schools in law or medicine. We can look at what our students do when they go on to graduate schools in the arts and sciences. And here we've had some really exciting results as well. The group of seniors who went on to doctoral level health professional schools this past year was really quite remarkable. 83% of them gained admission to medical or other doctoral level health professional schools. 83%. The national average is about 45%. So these are really remarkable students, people who've done just tremendous things. Of the 28 seniors who worked with our pre-law advisor, Aaron Berg, 24 of them gained admission to law school for an acceptance rate of about 85%, which again surpasses the national average. And we've had students go on to do terrific things in the arts and sciences as well. This past year, one of our students, a young man named Shahan Ahmed, who came to Florida from Bangladesh to study physics, was offered a fully funded doctoral PhD scholarship in astrophysics to MIT. That really is rocket science, and this is really quite remarkable. Another one of our students, a young woman named Stacy Barnaby, is now entering the PhD program in chemistry at Northwestern. And one of my very favorite students, some of you may have actually met him, he was at this event last year, a young man named Ryan Adams, the president of our Jewish Students Organization, who also majored in and concentrated in American Catholic Studies, is now off at Divinity School at Harvard, pursuing his own personal career and surge and growth. So these records really, if you look at admissions, if you look at our rates of acceptance into professional schools and graduate schools, if you look at what our students are doing when they go on to graduate, all of this tells us that something really exciting is happening, that we're having some tremendous results. And one of the things that I have to think about as a dean, and one of the things that I constantly think about, is what explains this? What enables us to realize these kinds of accomplishments? How can we explain these results? The answer, I think, really reflects to a point that Tom just talked about a few moments ago. And it's the fact that this Jesuit tradition of cura personalis, of caring for the whole student, providing students with that kind of close personal advising and mentoring, is alive and well at Fordham College at Rose Hill. What we continue to do is bring in students of tremendous potential. We help them discover their intellectual gifts, we help them realize what they're truly passionate about, and then we help them go on to do remarkable things upon graduating. And it's really the commitment of our faculty with outstanding, world-class faculty. A faculty that also is advancing the frontiers of their own disciplines, but wants to be in the classroom with students. It's their commitment, their advising, their mentorship, which allows us to help bring students along in this way. And so Fordham College remains a very special place. The oldest and the largest college of the university, with 3,600 students. We have a lot of students to take care of, but I think we do a remarkable job of providing that kind of mentoring, that kind of guidance, which allows our students to go on to grow and develop personally and professionally. I'm going to say a few words about 3 areas that the college has really identified as places where we can take transformative steps forward. In mentioning these 3, of course, this is not an exhaustive list. There are many others I could talk about, but these are 3 which we put a great deal of energy in and really focus on in the past couple of years. The first of these is undergraduate research. There was a time when people thought about undergraduate research as something that really should be reserved for only a handful of students, perhaps a tiny few. And one of the things we've seen is that if students get involved in research with faculty members, if they begin to think about the fields of study not just as sort of static facts, static areas of names, facts, dates, or principles that they have to commit to memory, but instead can start thinking about them as frontiers for discovery, they can start thinking about them as areas in which they are able to contribute to generating new knowledge. There's something really exciting about that. There's something that our students really take to. It gives them an entirely different sense of investment in their own education, a different sense of investment in what they're able to accomplish. The college began to become heavily involved in undergraduate research in about 2006. And in that year, largely because of the support of some very generous alumni, we were able to fund about $50,000 worth of student projects. And we began doing so in the sciences. In the past year, again, largely because of the generosity of alumni like yourselves, the college allocated $300,000 to undergraduate research. We funded nearly 200 student projects, and students received grants for work during the academic year, doing independent projects. They also received support in the form of research assistantships to work alongside our faculty. And the results were really spectacular. This past year alone, 23 of our students were co-authors on professional journal articles. These are articles which professors are trying to publish. These are journals and formats which professors are seeking to publish. 23 of our undergraduates were co-authors in these venues. 48 of our students either co-authored or presented papers at national level conferences. And that does terrific things for us. You can imagine, for example, the student, like Stacy Barnaby, who I mentioned earlier, who walks into the American Chemical Society and presents her paper. And she's the only undergraduate in a room full of PhDs, postdocs, and faculty members. And as she's delivering her presentation, people are looking at the program and they're saying, wow, she's from Fordham. That does some really exciting things for us. 32 of our students won competitive research internships. Oftentimes at very distinguished programs run by organizations like the National Science Foundation or the National Endowment for the Humanities. We have a new undergraduate research journal, the first issue of which just came out, and our undergraduate research symposium this past April had nearly 200 students presenting their work. All of this, I think, is really exciting. This tells us that undergraduate research, this engagement of students with the discovery of new knowledge, is becoming a part of the intellectual culture of the institution. And I could go on to give you additional statistics, but it seems to me that the best way to make this tangible is to actually have the people who are involved in it here today, and a number of them are. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce a number of our students and our faculty who are working with them and tell you a little bit about the work that they're doing. And I'm going to begin with Dr. Peggy Andover and her student Margot Brzezzi, both of whom are here. If they could stand for just a moment. Dr. Andover is a psychologist. She works on cognitive behavioral therapy. She's received a major grant from the National Institutes of Mental Health. And she has been working very closely with Margot, who is a psychology major, I think a double major in psychology and anthropology. And Margot is doing a lot of work in a very critical field, and it's the field of non-suicidal self-injury. trying to identify the factors which make adolescents at risk for this very dangerous kind of behavior, trying to develop therapeutic approaches which allow us to deal with students at a very crucial point in their lives. And together they're in the process of producing an article which will be submitted very soon to a peer-reviewed academic journal. What we see here is a good example of what I'm talking about, and there are several others I'd like to mention. Dr. Susanna Marcella is here. She is with our faculty in, if you could rise just for a moment, I'm going to embarrass you. She is with our faculty in modern languages. She's a specialist in Italian and looks in Italian medieval literature, looking especially at the humanistic writings in philosophy and in theology. And she's working very closely with Joe Tumolo. Joe is only a sophomore, and that's, I think, really quite remarkable. We have a student as young as Joe engaged in this. And Joe is really not only developing tremendous language abilities in both French and in Italian, he's engaged in a very innovative project, which is actually looking at French-speaking communities in Italy, and the history of these French-speaking communities going back to the medieval and to the early Renaissance periods. And he's involved in a project associated with something called the digital humanities. They're actually putting together lots of primary sources and making them available for other students and scholars, helping expand the familiarity of this kind of research to others. So we're really very proud of what they're accomplishing as well. Dr. Rolf Ryan is here as well. Dr. Ryan is a mathematics faculty member. He works in the field of partial differential equations, which I find difficult even to say as a historian, but I'm really, really impressed by his work. He's done a lot of innovative work in terms of looking at the mathematical applications in the sciences, looking at the ways in which mathematics can help us solve and address a number of crucial scientific problems. And he's working with the student Gray Crenshaw. Gray is a senior mathematics major. She's actually double majoring in math and communications, another well-rounded individual. Gray is also one of our Claire Booth Luce scholars. The Claire Booth Luce program supports students who are really focused on, who are women in science. The project that they're working on is really quite remarkable. They're looking at ways to develop mathematical models of vesicle membranes, and looking at the way in which mathematical models can be applied to the function of red blood cells, things that can help us understand and make advances in the field of hematology. And this is the kind of partnership which, again, we're really very proud of. So thank you. Other folks are here as well. I'm just sort of glancing around the room to see if Sylvia Finneman, Dr. Finneman is here. Dr. Finneman is a cell biologist. She's done a great deal of work looking at the human retina. Her work deals with something which all of us sooner or later are going to confront in our lives, and it's age-related macular degeneration. And Dr. Finneman has been a recipient of a number of external grants, and she has really built a very successful team of undergraduate scholars. One of them is with us here today, Sean Hickey. Sean is a double major in history and in biology. And Sean is actually looking at the protein signaling mechanisms which are involved in trying to preserve vision over time and trying to ensure that we'll find more effective ways of trying to improve this very serious problem. So I'm very grateful to them for being here. Dr. Monica McDermott is here as well. Dr. McDermott is a political scientist. Her doctorate is from UCLA, my own PhD institution. And Dr. McDermott works in the field of public opinion. And she does a lot of research dealing with the United States Congress of Public Opinion, published a major book in that field in 2009, and has collaborated very closely with Caitlin Meyer. Caitlin is a senior political science major from Oakland, California. We're seeing more and more students coming to the college from other parts of the country. Caitlin is doing a very interesting project looking at gender and gendered perceptions and how they affect voting behavior. Really doing a project that gets into questions of psychology as well as political science. And they're collaborating on an article which will soon be submitted for publication as well. Finally, there's one more pair that I'd like to introduce to you. And it's Dr. Mary Crosadano. Dr. Crosadano is a psychologist. She does a great deal of work in interpersonal therapy, looking especially at elderly populations, as well as a number of cross-cultural problems. And she's here with Harjo Mayar. Harjo is a student who is majoring in psychology. I should point out that she's also minoring in international humanitarian affairs. And she's engaged in a project that looks at young adult cancer survivors and the variables which help individuals go through a period of traumatic experience and then find ways to recover from this disease and go on to lead effective lives. What are the variables which seem to be most crucial in allowing them to survive this experience and then to go on and to adapt into their own lives afterwards? So thank you very much. What I think you see, actually before I continue, can we have a round of applause for this? What I think you see here in these partnerships is something quite remarkable, and it really illustrates that point that I made earlier. What we have that is so distinctive and that is really quite rare in American higher education is the combination of the resources of a major research university within a small college. And that partnership between students and faculty is really remarkable, and it's one of the things that is making us truly distinctive. As you listen to the topics that they worked on, you can also get a sense of how clearly they resonate with our own sense of Jesuit mission. Trying to improve the lives of young adult cancer survivors. Trying to look at questions that will help us have greater degrees of vision as we grow older. Trying to look at issues related to the nature of American democracy. The broad range of fields which they represent really are contributing. They're helping make the college an engine that is allowing us to take steps, to take concrete steps, in terms of improving the broader society that we're a part of. A very famous former Jesuit former Jesuit general put it this way, he said, knowledge is not neutral. And that's something that we recognize very clearly here. Knowledge is not neutral. Knowledge allows us to go off as an institution in the Jesuit tradition to make these kinds of contributions. And it's really the support of alumni like yourselves which allow us to do that. There are two other areas I'd like to talk about in the time that remains, areas where we've put a great deal of energy recently. The first of these is the sciences. Fordham College has long been known and really quite distinguished by its terrific programs across the humanities and the social sciences. And that's certainly appropriate given the strong contributions in fields like philosophy and theology in our core curriculum. And those fields remain outstanding at Fordham, and we're extremely proud of them. But to be an outstanding liberal arts college, to be a truly superior liberal arts college, we have to have outstanding science programs as well. This is crucial in terms of recruiting the kind of students that we're seeking to attract in a very competitive marketplace. It's crucial in terms of attracting and retaining some of the best faculty that we can. And if you think about science students, they bring not only tremendous benefits in terms of their own interests, but they also have other interests too. They are interested in music, they're interested in the arts. They help round out and build out the culture of the campus itself. And we've taken a number of crucial initiatives in the past few years to really advance the sciences. One of these is the promotion of interdisciplinary science programs. The most interesting and most crucial scientific problems that we face, after all, do not remain confined within disciplinary walls. They really require us to bring knowledge from a number of different fields, and that's something that we've really focused on. We have a new interdisciplinary program in environmental science. Those of you who, I'm sure, have all been reading the newspapers as of late over the past few years, you know just how vital this field is. And we have a number of students who are coming to Fordham specifically because they want to study environmental science. We have a minor program in bioinformatics, bringing together computer science with biology. You can think about the complexity of a number of biological problems related to, say, for example, the human genome. The management of information, the kind of modeling required to get into this field is something that we're now taking very serious looks at. We're now in the process of creating a new program in neuroscience, which will bring together psychology, biology, computer and information science together, as well as chemistry. This, too, gives us an opportunity to look at an area of tremendous growth and an area of great interest on the part of our students. One of the things we've also been trying to do is to capitalize on our location. When you think about the Bronx, you might not immediately imagine a center of tremendous scientific discovery, and you would be wrong. One of great benefits that we have in being in the Bronx is that we are immediately adjacent to a number of crucial partners in scientific advance. Directly across the street from us is the New York Botanical Gardens, which is a tremendous resource for students who are working in the field of ecology. We have large numbers of students doing research at the Botanical Gardens. It becomes a place where our faculty take their classes, and we are now beginning to have a process in which staff and faculty from the gardens are coming to guest lecture and participate in our courses on the Rose Hill campus. A little bit farther over is the Wildlife Conservation Society of the Bronx Zoo, another tremendous resource for us, where students are doing research and we're continuing to build collaborations. And a little bit farther down the road is the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, another place where we have students doing research, and we are now beginning to have far more collaboration with the Einstein faculty who are coming to participate in symposiums with our faculty, sharing research interests, and getting involved in our classrooms. These kinds of partnerships, and we're also, I should say, building one with the American Museum of Natural History, these kinds of partnerships allow us to capitalize on our location. Science is not a cheap enterprise. It takes a lot of resources. It's an expensive project. But capitalizing on these relationships allows us to advance in a strategic way. We are also now in the process of renovating all of our existing science facilities on the Rose Hill campus. We've renovated facilities in chemistry, we've renovated facilities in physics and engineering physics, and we are now in the process of beginning a renovation project for all of our undergraduate biology teaching facilities. Again, this is crucial in terms of our ability to recruit and to retain outstanding faculty. So the sciences are an area where we're putting a great deal of energy. Our faculty and students have really done heroic work with fairly modest resources, and now we're really at the point where we can bring them up to speed and allow us to become increasingly competitive in this life area. The final field which I'll mention, and then I'll be very glad to take questions from you all, is international education. As a Jesuit institution in New York City, international education for us should stand very close to one of our core objectives. If you think about it, we're in the process of educating students who are going to graduate from the college, and they're going to go off into a world which is increasingly globally connected. They're going to go off into a world in which at various points in their lives they are quite likely to live outside the United States. They'll be quite likely to do business with foreign companies. They might be quite likely to work for foreign companies. They'll be quite likely, even if they remain here in New York, to live in a society in which international affairs and international questions are absolutely crucial and relevant to the kind of work that they do. So we have to prepare them for that. We have to get them ready to engage in that environment. How do we do it? Well, one way that we do it is by looking at language training. The acquisition of foreign languages gives our students the ability to go off into a variety of foreign settings and function effectively. It opens up new worlds for them. And Fordham has a long tradition of excellence in Western European languages, a tradition that we continue to maintain today, as you see by hearing about people like Joe Tumolo and his Italian studies. But we're now in the process of pursuing other fields which we have not done as much with before. I'm very proud to say that we have new minors in both Mandarin Chinese and in Arabic. I can't think of two languages that at this point in time, for students who are interested in international affairs, in international business, or issues related to politics or security, beyond things like Mandarin and Arabic, I can't think of two others that might be perhaps more crucial than those. Already, even at this point, these programs just began as minors officially this past year. Already we have over 40 students in each of those languages, in Chinese and Arabic, at the advanced level. What this tells us is that students are excited about it, they're pursuing it, and we should now be planning not only to have minors in Arabic and Mandarin, we should be planning to have majors on those fields. Can you imagine a student who's about to graduate who double majors in, say, international political economy and Mandarin Chinese? That kid's going to be in a pretty good position, it seems to me. We're capable of building those kinds of opportunities for our students. And that's one of the things that we're committed to doing. A second area that we have to look at and take seriously is study abroad, international education itself in the most profound sense. About a third of our students study abroad, and they do so in a variety of different ways. Some would go for a full semester, others might go for a full year, others might go in shorter term programs, a few weeks or a few months during the course of the summer, for example. As a dean, it's crucial to me that we try to make study abroad as accessible as possible, as affordable as possible for all of our students who are academically qualified. Study abroad for students who receive significant amounts of financial aid at the college is really a challenge. To go abroad involves that they incur additional costs which typically they are not covered by the kind of support we're able to provide for them. So we're in the process now of creating a number of study abroad scholarships. Scholarships which allow students, many of whom come from fairly modest means, as is congruent with our mission as an institution, allowing those students, many of whom have terrific academic records, to also study abroad. Because we believe that study abroad can't simply be an add-on to a foreign education. That kind of international experience should be an integral one. Because being outside the United States, adapting to and engaging with a foreign culture allows our students to have the kind of perspective that gives them greater insights into their own professional development, into their own personal growth, and into the kinds of goals they'd like to pursue. I think many of us in this room can probably relate to that, thinking back on our own experiences outside the U.S., either as students or as professionals, and what that time has done for us. I would say for myself that the year I spent teaching in China, in many ways, had a fundamental impact upon my own work and what I wanted to go on to do in life. So that's an area that we continue to emphasize and take a good look at. The last thing that I'll mention, and the thing that I think we're continuing to also develop, are a number of specific programs which deal with international education. One that I'm especially proud of is a brand new program which will begin in January in South Africa at the University of Pretoria. We will be sending a group of 10 Fordham students to Pretoria to begin a brand new Fordham Study Abroad program there. They'll be taking a dedicated course on the history of modern South Africa. They'll be taking additional courses by directly matriculating at the University of Pretoria, but then they will also, through the Jesuit Institute of South Africa, they will be doing a number of service projects in that country. Projects working at schools, projects working in areas which are shelters for women in cases of domestic abuse or even international trafficking. That kind of study abroad service learning is really quite remarkable. It gives our students yet another opportunity to have a deeper understanding of the society in which they're studying. But even more than that, it continues to allow Fordham to remain true to its own mission. Study abroad with a service component, an area that we're taking very seriously. Study abroad with a service component allows us to have our students directly engaged with fundamental questions pertaining to poverty, to economic development, to the emergence of new democracies. Questions which are directly related to our purpose and our mission as a Jesuit institution. And South Africa is a remarkable place for us to do that, a society that at the end of apartheid in 1994 is in the process of creating an entirely new democratic society and beginning a process of rapid economic growth, which will really be, I think, a model for many other countries as well. In broad terms then, my message to you is that the college is really doing very well. The generosity of our faculty, the accomplishments of our students, and really the resources and support that our alumni have provided. And I'm very grateful to all of you who supported the college's annual fund, because that is the fund through which so many of these programs have been promoted. The generosity of our alumni has allowed us then to continue bringing the college forward, to help us become a truly superior liberal arts college, and one that will continue to serve generations of students for years to come. So thanks so much to all of you. It's a terrific pleasure to be here with you, and we have some time for questions, and I'm very glad to take some from you. So thanks again. Are there any questions? I'd be glad to take some. Yes?
Yes, when the machine took over, we were at 84 universities and what we call national universities. Now we're obviously 53rd. How far up do you sense that we can go?
Did everyone hear the question? It pertained to Fordham's rankings in the U.S. News and World Report surveys. When we began, we were in the 80s, and now we are in the low 50s. And this has happened really in a fairly short window of time since Father McShane became president. The question was, how much farther can we go? I hope we can keep going up into the very top tier. I think that, Father McShane's goal, of course, is, as he would put it, for us to return to our rightful position as the preeminent Catholic institution in the United States. That's a lofty goal. But you know what? Having lofty goals is a good thing, because it really gives you something to strive for. I would consider great indicators of success, and this is already starting to happen, but I consider it a great indicator of success when we have students who, quite honestly, could go anywhere, who are sometimes accepted to some of these outstanding places, and say, you know what, I'm going to come to Fordham because they have the program I want, or I've seen what their students can do. So when we have students who are admitted to, say, Georgetown or Holy Cross and say, I'm going to go to Fordham instead, because Fordham really is the place that I want. They have the program I want, they have the engagement with faculty, they have the resources in New York City. To me, that's a real indication of success. Or better yet, perhaps when we have students who are admitted to Williams or Amherst or Swarthmore, looking at what their options are and saying, this is all really exciting, but Fordham has something really distinctive. They offer something that these other institutions don't, in terms of its own sense of mission, in terms of its programs, in terms of what resources we're able to provide with our really outstanding faculty. So I'd love to see us keep going. How high could we go? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I hope we find out. But I'd certainly like to see us keep moving up into that top tier. So thank you. Yes.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here. If you just, or if you would, just bring us up to speed on the proportion of residents versus commuter students. You know the question that I'm begging in terms of all of these wonderful achievements in terms of Fordham's core tradition and heritage as a Catholic university in a New York City environment. Thank you.
I hope everyone caught that question. The question has to do with the numbers of residents and the proportion of our students who are in residence. It's a very interesting question. In the 50s and 60s, the vast majority of our students were not residents. They were what people would call day hops, or what many of them would call themselves, people who were traveling from home to campus and back on a regular basis. At this point, we are 80% residential. About 80% of our students live on campus. And there are some who still do commute. And there's a little bit of fuzziness in that figure because we also have some students who, by the time they're juniors or seniors, decide they want to live off campus, but they live within about 2 blocks. So they're technically commuting, but it's a pretty short commute. But we're about 80% residential. And we have actually some brand new dormitories. Maybe some of you have seen these new residence halls at the Rose Hill campus. They're very close to the Metro North train station there. And they're really quite beautiful. They echo, in many ways, the other buildings on the campus. And they also allowed us to build into our residential program what we call integrated learning communities, where students are taking courses which have a significant residential component. So I'll briefly mention one of these, which is called our Manresa program, which is actually named after a place in the life of St. Ignatius himself, where he had continued his own spiritual conversion. The Manresa program is one in which all of the students in the same residence hall take seminars together with faculty members, and those faculty also serve as their freshman advisors. And they also build in a number of extracurricular activities. So when I taught in the program, I taught American history, and I actually taught a course in my own field of U.S. foreign relations. It dealt with the impact of war on American society. And I would take my students into the city. We would go to the United Nations, we would take walking tours of different Revolutionary War sites in the city. We would go to the New York Historical Society. And we would try to integrate this all within the residential setting itself. fact, one year I taught it, I actually taught in the residence hall because there was a classroom there. So we have more and more of a residential community. We still have significant numbers of commuter students, though, about 20%. And one of the things that we're trying to do is continue to make the campus a real home for them. So we need to provide the resources for them in terms of academic computing or printing. We have a commuter student organization, and we now have commuter students who are also members of the fundraiser program. So even though they're not officially in residence in the dorm, they still participate in those opportunities. Yeah, Sean.
I know we have our 10458 zip code in the Bronx, which is situated in the poorest of the poor in the United States. And I know that you spoke about reaching out to serving underserved populations, but I was wondering if you might have some comment about broad diversity of people that are in the Bronx and the diversity of languages and cultures, and how maybe we can use that as our own backyard laboratory for many of the different sciences that we have.
It's a great question. One of the things that we're really very proud of is our Bronx location. And I'll answer the question in a few different ways. Large numbers of our students continue to do community service in the Bronx itself. They're working at homeless shelters, they're working at public schools as tutors, they're working in soup kitchens, they're working in after-school programs with children. In fact, really, this community service ethic is actually embedded in a number of our courses too, which actually have a service learning component to them. So the Bronx is really a tremendous resource for us. We also look for ways to bring the residents of the Bronx onto the campus. And we have, in fact, a number of programs which do that. Oftentimes middle school students or high school students coming to campus. We have a program called Mentoring Latinas, which we contribute very strongly to, which has a number of Latina women who are undergraduates at Fordham who serve as mentors to Bronx area middle and high school Latina girls, helping them get a sense of what their academic promise might be, helping them think about the possibilities of going to a school like Fordham. We also have a higher education opportunity program, which has tremendous success in bringing in students from backgrounds and situations which are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And our graduation rate is really outstanding in that program. But the Bronx does become in many ways a kind of laboratory for us. We're actually creating a new Bronx Service Center, which is a multi-school initiative of the university, which will allow students working in a number of different areas. Students working in business, students working in psychology, students working in sociology or urban studies, to form partnerships with Bronx area organizations. And they really are partnerships. We're not pretending to come in and tell them how they should organize their efforts, but we're serving as resources for them. And in the process, our students are learning a great deal about fields like sociology or urban studies or mental health. So the Bronx really is, it really is a great advantage for us. You know, there's a tendency on the part of some, I think, to think about the Bronx as a liability. Other institutions fled the Bronx. We've stayed, and I think we've actually got to the point where the Bronx really is a great asset to us as an institution.
I recently went on a campus tour with my daughter, who was looking at college this year, and I noted that there are a lot of dorms that have triples that are meant to be doubles. And my daughter also has a friend who lives in Manhattan but wasn't able to get on-campus housing. So is there any more plans to build further dorms, or is there a shortage of housing? What's the answer to that?
That's an important question. We are at the very threshold of our capacity, as your question suggests. We had over 1,000 freshmen enter the college last fall. I think the exact number was 1,044. That's more than we anticipated. Our target is about 1,000 even. And I'm hoping that in the fall we'll admit a class that's closer to 980. We are at 3,600 students, the largest the school has ever been. And we are, I think, at the very ceiling of what we can carry. I don't know that there are plans to contribute to build new housing on campus, but there are plans to expand our housing stock immediately off campus. in Arthur Avenue and the Little Italy section of the Bronx to make that more accessible. And that will allow some of our juniors and seniors, some of whom by that point are happy to live off campus, but still in very close proximity anyway, and create additional space for freshmen and sophomores. We had almost too much of a good thing, I think, last fall, but I think we are moving to address it now.
I've heard the discussions of bioinformatics and academic computing and the need for more computing expansion. But I haven't seen some of the fundamental things important, such as long-distance learning, alumni long-distance learning, conference things, etc. It still seems, and I was with Fordham long ago, it was always limited on computer capacity. What's your plans for that?
The question had to do with our plans for computing and computing capacity. I think that we're taking, I guess I'll back up a little bit. We're at the point where in terms of computing on campus, we actually have very strong resources available for students. Many students, of course, now arrive with their own laptops and their own computing equipment, and we're fully wireless on the vast majority of our spaces on campus. So you'll see more and more students who have that with them. For those who don't have those resources, we do have a number of IT public access computer labs, which are very heavily used in our main academic buildings as well as in the library. We're using more and more computing equipment and conferencing capability because, of course, we have 3 campuses: the Westchester campus, the Rose Hill campus, and at Lincoln Center. So it's very, very common to have meetings be teleconferenced from one place to another. We may experiment in some capacity with having some lecture courses be teleconferenced. We have not done within the college, we have not done a lot of distance learning or expanded online learning for students, at least in part because there are a number of questions about the nature of that experience. To the extent that we want to maintain this kind of close proximity between students and faculty, I know as an instructor I've always valued that ability to have that direct face-to-face exchange with students. If we were to think about that, I would really want to do so in a way that would allow us to preserve the essential character of that exchange. One school, though, that is moving much more seriously in this direction is what was formerly called the College of Liberal Studies, which is now the Fordham School of Professional and Continuing Studies. It's been renamed. And here they're doing much more aggressive approaches to distance learning because so much of their population are full-time working adult students. And so for them, that question of accessibility becomes really crucial. I would love to see additional engagement with alumni, though, in a distance learning capacity. To me, that sounds like an outstanding idea and a great opportunity for us. It's something I'd be very happy to see.
There are many universities doing it now, as you well know. The question I'm asking is, I look at your websites, I look at the stuff on Fordham on the internet. It's extremely limited in comparison to many other liberal schools in comparison to you. And it is not a high cost-effective issue. It seems to be downgraded by Fordham rather than supported.
The question then now pertains to the website and the kind of resources that we have publicly. I'm actually very glad to tell you that there is a university-wide committee which is in the process of doing a comprehensive overhaul of Fordham's website. They're already meeting, they have representatives from each of the different schools. The representative from Fordham College at Rose Hill is actually with us today. It's Dr. Michelle Beda. Michelle, maybe you can give us a wave. Michelle is our Assistant Dean and Director of Undergraduate Research, and she's the college's representative to that committee. So it's really a part of an ongoing initiative, and we're taking it very seriously. So your point is very well taken. I agree with you on that score, and we have a process in place that's putting a lot of energy into it.
I'm biased, I make no doubt of it. I've been the data architect for the New York Stock Exchange for many years, and there's a different world in financing, etc. But the question is, some of the fundamental email tag and various other things that are extremely low cost are not in your environment.
Well, they certainly should be, and I welcome your participation. If you have expertise in that area and there are guidance or advice you can give us on how to do that, I would love to have a conversation with you. Or certainly Dean Beda would, I think. So thank you. There's another person from the college, or a few people from the college I have not introduced that I'd like to. Dr. Donna Heald was with us, and Dr. Heald is the Associate Dean for Science Education. Those rates that I talked about in terms of pre-health advising and our tremendous success of students going on to medical and health professional schools, much of the credit really is due to Dr. Heald's terrific work. And Karen Ellis is here as well. Karen's the development officer for the college.
Just went out.
She just stepped out. She'll be back. Any other questions, other things I can address? Yeah, Armin.
When I was at Fordham in the late 50s, practically all of the students were Catholic kids who went to Catholic schools. I went to a public school. There were relatively few. What is Fordham doing today to attract the best and the brightest non-Catholic kids? Because it strikes me to be a great university, you have to get great kids regardless of their backgrounds.
I don't know if everyone heard the question. It had to do with our ability to attract students from a diverse range of backgrounds. When Armin was a student at Fordham, the vast majority, overwhelming majority were Catholic. How do we attract and retain students who are outstanding or not Catholic? Actually, at this point today, and I'm speaking from memory here, about 2/3 of our students are Catholic. So over 30% of our students are not. So we do have a very diverse population of students in terms of their own religious approaches, their own family backgrounds. One of the things that we constantly emphasize, and that I emphasize when I'm speaking with parents and students, is that the fundamental ideals of the Jesuit mission really are open to students from a wide variety of religious backgrounds, of faith backgrounds. And that if you think about the essentials of the Jesuit tradition in terms of cura personalis, in terms of service to others, in terms of a profound and very serious engagement with the problems of the world, and a reflection upon one's personal vocation and commitment to doing that, those particular elements of the Jesuit emphasis are things which students of a wide variety of backgrounds really find very compelling. So our hope ultimately is that as we engage a number of students from different backgrounds, that they will find within the Jesuit tradition and within Jesuit teaching these crucial elements which will be essential. Fordham is also really at the forefront of pursuing interreligious dialogue. And some of you may know that, for example, Father Patrick Ryan, a very distinguished Jesuit who currently is holding the McGinley Chair, the chair that was formerly held by Cardinal Avery Dulles. Father Ryan has a series of talks and public lectures and a series of events which deal with questions of interreligious dialogue, looking at Christian, Muslim, and Jewish relations historically and in the present day. So Fordham is striving as well to be a center that not only attracts students from different traditions, but really is a place where we have a full integration and exchange of ideas on that front. And if you think about the nature of the current world, that's what Fordham should be doing. That's really squarely within our mission, I think. Maybe we have time for like one more question, and then we should wrap things up. Yes, Carlos.
Hi, thank you. You told us a lot about many things which really comprise the vision and mission of the school. I was wondering if you could share with us as Dean, what are the 2 or 3 key strategic objectives that you've set for the college over the next 2 years?
Yeah, the question has to do with sort of core strategic objectives for the college. I think I've identified some of them. Certainly this emphasis upon undergraduate research is one of them, trying to ensure that we really are able to take crucial steps forward there. Advancing the sciences also becomes central and continuing to make progress there. I think strategically, if we can continue to attract outstanding students, if we can continue to maintain these terrific results, and we can remain faithful to our sense of mission, if we can really put those core positions in place and do so well going forward, I'll be really very, very pleased. But I think those 3 areas I talked about today are really sort of on the front burner of strategic goals. Certainly other things I would add would include our ongoing commitment to activities of mission, trying to ensure that our culture as a Jesuit institution is always strong and well represented. I would pay attention to questions related to retention, trying to ensure that we have students who are moving through the curriculum successfully and that we're taking very good care of them in the process. I would also, I think, look very carefully at and continue to think about those integrated learning communities that I mentioned, because they help build the kind of community among the students. thanks again to all of you. It's been a real pleasure to be here, and it's great to have you with us. Thank you.